Hello, fellow chopperoos. The Big Chopperoo and Safety Dan here.
Hey.
And if you've been following our recent quick tip videos, then you know exactly what today's project is.
What is it?
What do you mean, what is it?
I haven't been following your quick tips.
But you've been filming me.
Doesn't mean I'm paying attention.
Well, for those of you who might have missed an episode or two, today's project is the Pinball coffee table. This is going to be the complete build with all the quick tips and everything included. So, without further ado, before we get started on the project, Safety, why don't you give them the woodworking advice?
Always finish early so you can get to the bar on time for happy hour.
What happened to wear your hearing protection and safety glasses?
Whatever, man. I'm done.
Well, watch this in the meantime. This is the pinball playing field that my customer gave me, I think, a year or so ago. And when he brought it to me, he just asked for me to put a wooden frame around it, really basic. And on the back, I put some 1/4-inch hardboard on it. So inside, he could put some Christmas lights and make it light up. But now, he's asked me to put this into a coffee table. And he sent me a picture of what he wants the coffee table to look like, so I kind of have to replicate that and make this baby fit. I'm starting with some square 4x4 material, and I need to turn them all round on the lathe. After that, I have to put square notches in these legs, so let me show you all the steps for that. So what I want to make are some of these small little squares. In this case, it's 3.5 by 3.5, and I want them to be exactly the same. So here's how I'm going to do it on my table saw. Now it starts off pretty obvious. I'm going to take a piece of wood. In this case, I have some MDF, and I've set my fence to 3.5, and I'm going to push this through. Okay, so I'm good this way on it, but now how am I going to make these squares? Well, it's too dangerous for me to use my miter gauge and just push it through. If I did this, there's a chance that this piece will get caught between the fence and the blade and come shooting back at me. Now, I could use my table saw sled, which I normally do when I have to make multiple pieces. But in this case, I just want to make a couple. By the way, if you don't have a table saw sled, well, I got a little link below to a tip on how to make a cheap, easy one. But regardless, here's how I'm going to set this up to do it safely. Now, this is my tenon jig that I've made in another video, and I can use it to make tenons for mortise and tenons. But in this case, I like to use it for this setup. I slip my tenon jig over it, and I know this is 3.5 inches. So I'm going to place that against the blade. I bring my tenon jig up and move the fence and lock it in. So now I have 3.5 inches in between here. I just slide the tenon jig back, and now with my miter gauge, I can put the piece all the way against the jig, and now when I go through, I can make the cut. I have plenty of room here where it's not going to get pinched and come shooting out. And then what I like to use is a pencil, and then I can just kind of safely push the scrap piece away. So I found the center. I made a couple little lines going around, put a screw in, and I have this square piece that I'll put on there. And just to kind of tighten that up. Then what I'll do is because I'm going to cut this section, I don't want that screw in the way. So I'll put a couple other screws in. And I'll take this one out. Flip this around. This time I have another square, and I'll put that in. Now I have to level these two. Okay, so now I need this plane to be level with this plane. So I'll just turn that. There. Good. And I'll throw a screw in down here so that doesn't move. And now I'll go to the table saw. Okay, so I raised the blade up for the height of my cut. I've also set the width to the width of this. And I also have a mark right here on the fence that when I push this in, I'm going to make sure that this stops right there. Then I'll back it out, turn it, and make another cut.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
You can see I have two cuts 3 inches down on it. Okay, the next thing I did was I made this V block here. I just ran it through the table saw at 45 degrees and glued it to some just MDF. And this way I can lay my piece in here. I've got support on it. And I've got my combination square set at 3 inches. And I'm just going to draw a line. So once again I have my line. This is the section that I want to remove. Although the blade goes all the way to the full depth here, down here it's not. It's only going in a little because that blade is curved. So I'm going to use my chisel to get most of this out. Not too shabby. Here's my jig again that we used earlier, and I'm putting a leg in here. And this works out pretty cool. So the top of the jig here, which is flat, I'm going to lay a pencil on here. And I'm going to take that pencil to where it just touches that edge of the apron. And keeping the pencil flat, I'm going to transfer the lines down the leg. And I'm going to try and darken these in for you. Okay. All right, and I'll do the same to the other side here. All right, I got those lines going all the way down it. Now I know the top of my shelf, I want it 4 inches up from the bottom. So I already put a pencil line there. And again, with this jig, what I can do is I can just put the pencil on there. And I have a clamp down here acting as a stop. And I will just rotate the leg in the jig. Again, I'm trying to go over it twice so you guys can see. Now, from down there, I'm going to measure 3/4 of an inch, which I've set my compass to. So once again, doing the same trick. So I want to cut this area out. Now I have to put some marks for where the supports will be underneath that. And I have those coming in 3/4 of an inch from the ends. Same thing, keeping the pencil flat on the jig, and I pull my line down. Nice straight lines. And I know that needs to be 1.25 inches. That's what I need to cut out. Now, I can't do this on the table saw, so let me show you how I'm going to do it. So I have a 3/4 inch chisel, and I'm not going to cut this all the way out with a chisel, but I do need a couple of flat spots started on here. So I'm going to rotate it so that this line is perpendicular to my bench. I want that at 90 degrees from my bench top. And now I'm going to strike down on it. Notice I'm keeping the chisel straight. I'm not going in on an angle. Trying to keep it straight going down. And now I'll go with the grain. And I'm going to try and put a flat surface on here. You might have to stake it a few times with the chisel. All right, that's pretty good. Now I'm going to continue staking the lines and do the same thing to this side. Okay, now that I have flat spots on both sides, I'm going to take the jig and set this up in my drill press. I have the leg in the jig. The jig is clamped to the drill press. I also have a clamp that's holding the leg and the jig together. And I have a 3/4 inch bit placed in here, and I've got a depth stop set so that this will drill straight down. That's why I made that little flat spot, because I like to drill into something square. I don't like to go on an angle or on a curve in this case. Again, make sure that this is perpendicular to the jig or the base, and I will turn this on and start drilling. Now I'll just take the clamps off, realign it up, and drill on the other side. I've got both holes drilled through, and the depth of where they drilled to is basically the depth of the center line here. So I had the drill stop already set up for that. Okay, now I need to remove this waste in the middle. So I'll take a handsaw and I'll cut most of that out. I'm going to stop there because I don't want my saw to cut past that. So it didn't quite go all the way through, but it's pretty close. All right. And now with a chisel, I'll remove some of this waste out of here. In fact, looks like it wants to break out. There we go. Okay, a little bit left in there still. You can see a little bit. Clean that up. All right, now the corners are still round from the drill bit, so I'm going to have to take the chisel, take a little time to square them all up with my scrap piece of wood. I'm going to test to make sure that it goes in all the way, and I'll do that for the remaining legs. With all the notches cut for the shelf, I just now have to cut out the small notch for what will hold the braces underneath, a style rail, whatever you want to call it. Once again, it goes back in the jig. This time I'm going to use a clamp, so I again want to make sure that the center line is perpendicular to the bench. Make sure that's at 90 degrees. And once again with my chisel, first I'm going to work a little bit across the grain. I'm getting that corner because I'm trying to strike going straight down. I want to try and keep my chisel as straight as possible. I'm going to do it a few more times, and then I'm going to rotate it and do the same thing to the other side, working straight down so I meet in the middle, so I get a nice 90-degree corner there. I've got a little bit more to clean up in the deep corner there, but you can see that this will supply some support for our lower pieces. Okay, 3 more to go.
Hey, you guys still paying attention in there?
What are you doing?
We need to stop here for today because they're just falling asleep.
Are you kidding me? They're really getting into it.
No, we'll just finish it next week.
Oh, come on. Hey, who's in charge of the shop, you or me?
Look, I said we'll finish it next week.
Well, still one more thing that I got to do. It's time for me to dance.
No, come on. We'll finish it next week.
Next week?
Yeah.
Can I dance more?
Yep, twice as long.
All right. Whoa, what are you doing?
We need to stop here. They're falling asleep.
No, they're not. They're really getting into it. Oh, what are you doing?
We need to stop here for today. This is taking way too long.
What are you talking about? They're really getting into What are you doing?
This is taking way too long.
All right, come on, I got it. What are you doing?
This is taking way too long. We'll just finish it next week.
What are you talking about? They're really getting into it.
No, they're not. Because it's taking too long. Oh, it's just...
What are you doing?
This is taking way too long. Let's just finish it next week.
No, it's taking way too long.
Yep.
You're falling asleep.
Yep.
What are you doing?
This is taking way too long, and they're falling asleep.
No, they're not. They're really getting into it.
No, we'll just finish it next week.
Oh, come on. Hey, who runs this shop? You or me?
I said we'll finish it next week.
I screwed up. Sorry.
It's all right.
I'll do it again. Got good outtakes this time. Good outtakes. Ready?
No.
What are you doing?
Hey, let's just stop here.
They're falling asleep.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
We'll just stop here for the day because they're falling asleep.
No, they're not. They're really getting into it.
No, this is taking way too long.
I forget my line. Yeah. What are you doing?
This is taking way too long. They're falling asleep.
We're just there.
This is stupid. It's so easy.